Cashflow Savannah where the dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on, ring that wealth bell. From the dirt to the gold, every story's untold. Cashflow Savannah where ambition takes hold. Started with $1, stretched it to a mile. Every setback just a setup for style. Stacking paper, vision clearer than glass.
Welcome to Cashflow Savannah podcast. Today, Chandler and I are going to be talking about a fruit fly infestation that is incredibly hard to say. If you've ever had fruit flies, you need to watch this episode all the way to the end. We had a really severe attack of fruit flies. We're able to get through it. Chandler and I love to talk about property management. We love to talk about taking care of homes, finding great deals. If you're interested in this comment, please like and subscribe below. We would so appreciate you tuning in every time we have one of these weird scenarios take place in our lovely lives here in Savannah, Georgia. Chandler, how are you this morning? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, doing good. Busy weekend.
Good. Awesome. I love a busy weekend. I also had a busy weekend. This subject of fruit flies, I want to say I'm so excited because you mentioned this to me kind of off the cuff recently. And I got so excited. I instantly had 400 questions for you because you were the heavy on this project. I didn't have to do much, I have to say. But as soon as you told me, I said, oh, we have to record a podcast episode. This is something that no one talks about. We had an extreme fruit fly infestation in one of our properties. Give us some context. Was it 7 fruit flies? Was it 17 fruit flies? Was it 700? What are your thoughts here?
7,000.
7,000.
I mean, maybe not that much, but I call it in the thousands at least.
You mentioned to me as soon as you entered the property, you were doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
Is that right?
They'd be peppering you right in the face. But yeah, it was pretty bad. I didn't know it was going to be that bad. They were just and it was like, oh, there's like this small little fly infestation. I was like, no worries. That's easy. We'll just come in.
And for context, this was not a disgusting Section 8 long-term rental property. This is a luxury property, very high value in a great section of Savannah. I mean, this is not a gross property. This is just literally a fruit fly infestation of a really great property. And the owner lost a great tenant because of it. Would you agree that that was a big reason the former tenant moved out?
I don't know. I think the former tenant was just, they were moving somewhere very nice. It was actually, they had 2 properties, so it was splitting time between back and forth. And I think that was kind of the reason the fly infestation got so bad, because they were splitting time and not here full time.
So they were kind of letting it go and they weren't really addressing it, kind of hoping it would go away. And it sounds like it definitely did not.
Yeah, because they were just like here for 2 days a week, and they were just like, oh, we'll just deal with it for the 2 days, not thinking it was that bad.
So what were the first steps that you took to try to address the issue? Because I've dealt with fruit flies many times.
So I just tried to YouTube everything. I'd never seen or dealt with flies like this. And I was like, all right, good old YouTube will tell me how to do it. So the first thing everybody tells you on YouTube, and I mean everybody, hey, go buy this and pour it down your drains for 7 days straight and let it sit. And so that's what I did. I went and bought some, I didn't pour like bleach down the drain. It was stuff that was good for drains. And so I let it sit for 7 days by the drains. And then I knew it was going to be like a 3-week process at first. So I just did, and I would come every other day or every 2 days and just flush all the drains with hot water for like 5 minutes, flush the toilets, do everything. And then also got the place like super clean the place. But then come like 3 weeks later, I walked in on a Sunday and it was just worse.
And were you putting up traps? Because I've done this. I used to pour hot vinegar down and traps, all the things, not just pouring things down the drain.
Yeah, so funny enough, there was already traps in here. There was like 4 of them. Those Zevo traps, the blue Zevos. And so there was 4 of them. And I went and got new little slips, the sticky slips you can put in them. And I was counting them to kind of see if it was getting worse or better.
You were counting fruit flies in the trap?
Yeah, no, I was like, I gotta see if it's getting better or not. At first, it was like, all right, I would count like 100. And then once you get 100 on the trap, it's kind of gets hard to count them. Another thing, kind of just to mention the traps, I would definitely get the traps because you have to, so we're saying fruit flies, and that's what everybody thinks they are, but they're not fruit flies. They're actually phorid flies. So the traps kind of helped me identify what I was catching.
How do you know the difference between you said a phorid fly?
Phorid fly, yes. Phorid, phorid fly.
Phorid fly. fly. Okay, but they look just like fruit flies to the naked eye. Did you bring some photos so you can show us? Because you were telling me that you were able to identify them by looking at the traps.
I don't have photos with me right now. I was supposed to bring that.
Yes, you were. I'm dying to see these.
I can probably get some photos.
We have some photos, and are you able to see my screen, Chandler? So this is the trap that you used, and I'm going to zoom in. And can you kind of just educate us on how you can tell what kind of flies these are?
Yeah, can you? All right, so zoom out just a little bit. Forward flies, if you notice, they're calling them like humpback flies. And so they'll have this like little humpback on them. So I don't know if you can see a couple. If you see the humpback, how it's kind of they're rounded off on the back.
It almost looks like they're rounded off, but there's a stinger. Am I crazy? They do look a little rounded now that you say that, but I see like maybe it's their wing or something.
Yeah, it's just wings and longer legs kind of hanging off.
I have
They
no,
look big, but they're not that big. They
they're
look
definitely not
big.
big.
But that's why it's nice to have these traps to catch them. And you're okay.
So, did you use ChatGPT to identify the name of the fly?
Once you Google and like read up on it, it's pretty easy to identify them because fruit flies. So the difference between fruit flies and these flies, fruit flies are actually like light brown with red eyes. That's how you'd identify fruit flies. And these are like dark brown, all just dark. And so I just knew they weren't fruit flies. And then another thing is fruit flies, they just eat fruit. So if you have fruit sitting around, that's all they're going to eat on. They're not going to live in your drains. And so those were forward flies. And so I had to kind of read up on some forward flies.
Okay, I'm going to share your other photo. I'm very visual. So we have another look from the other side. They're brown.
Four traps out. Yeah, you see that big one right there? So
Yeah.
that's probably like the big one. So the big ones, like there's small ones, the big ones. The big ones are like the queen, like that one right there. That's a queen. Like they're the ones that are laying the eggs. And they lay like 500 eggs, supposedly. So that's why it's so easy to get a ton of them, is because they lay so many and then they hatch within 24 hours. And then all of a sudden you have 500 flies.
So because these aren't eating fruit, these are not fruit flies, do the traps even work?
The traps work, but the issue is you're just catching what's already out. You're not actual like they're home because you're killing those, but then just one of those queens can go lay eggs, and then you have 500 more, and then another queen can go lay an egg, and you have 500 more.
So
And so
whether you have forward flies or fruit flies, are the traps effective? Is it good to do or?
they're effective just only to a certain. They're effective for getting after you kill the infestation of where their home is.
Okay.
So that's the whole key. Because going into this, I thought just putting out traps and trying to get what's already out was like the key. And that's what YouTube would tell you. And this is the one thing I was like, YouTube has been wrong for this.
Interesting.
Um,
So by the time they've hit your trap, they've already probably laid a few hundred eggs or a few thousand eggs. So you're just getting rid of them to stop bothering you at that point, but you haven't.
And then it'll feel like they're getting better. What happens is like the eggs hadn't hatched. And then all of a sudden one day you'll walk in, you're like, where are these things coming from all of a sudden? It'll drive you crazy.
And how long between them laying eggs and then the eggs hatching? What's the time period there?
From what I read, I'm no expert, but from what I was reading, I read a lot. Once they lay, it's 24 hours. So it's a super quick life cycle, supposedly. They lay eggs 24 hours and then they don't live but for 10 days.
Do they lay just the one time and then they just fly around and drive you crazy the rest of the time, or do they lay every day?
I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm assuming they lay every day. I don't know. I'm not sure how quick they lay eggs or what they're doing. But so this is like, that's a relatively new trap right there. And I didn't take a picture of like the older traps. Like the older traps, you could barely see any white on them, all bugs.
Really? The ones
And I
that
guarantee you, like,
tenant.
yeah, from counting, I could tell like there's probably 500 flies on that.
Wow.
It doesn't look like it, but I just like when I was counting like 50 flies, I was like, this barely looks like any, but I counted 50. Like 50 would just cover that top corner.
And you're 3 weeks in. Yeah, this is crazy. You're 3 weeks in and you had gotten nowhere on this fruit fly issue. And we could not rent this home because no one would live in it with this many bugs. Is that right? It took you about 3 weeks to even go, I'm not
Three
going.
weeks, yeah. And then 3 weeks, and then finally after a month, I was like, all right, something's something's got to happen here. I got to stop. I was like, all right, I'm surrendering. I started calling some people. I wasn't telling anybody. And I started calling some people and they kind of started saying some different ideas. A lot of people were saying, pour bleach, pour this, pour, I don't know. I poured the good stuff down the drain. I've even foamed the drains. They say put foam down the drains because
Really?
it gets the entire foam, like the entire drain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This issue with pouring stuff down drains is when you pour it down the drain, it just kind of runs along the bottom wall of the drain, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, what those flies will do is they'll just live on the top wall. They'll watch the water go right under it, right under them, and they'll just eat on the stuff on the top wall. And so that's what was happening. They were just living on the top, and I was totally missing them with the water.
So did the foam help? That sounds like it would swell up and hit the whole pipe. What kind of foam were you pouring down? I've never heard of this.
There's this, I don't know, there's spray foam. It's like it came with a straw, like probably a 2 foot long straw, and you stick the straw down there and you spray the foam in there. And it'll expand and kind of swell up in the entire drain. The issue is it doesn't get like you'd have to use a ton of foam to get the entire like drainage system, if that
Mm.
makes sense. I mean, it would have been I would have had to get 6 cans, and that would have been hundreds of dollars.
So did it
Yeah.
help? Did the spray foam? Because okay, we didn't say this, but you had kind of figured out that the worst part was in the kitchen.
Yeah. But what's so funny is those Zevo traps that you have up on the screen right now,
Yeah.
the most were in the master bathroom.
Oh,
Yeah. So based on the Zevo traps, the most flies were in the master, and we were like, "What in the world? Like, why?" But we weren't seeing anything in the master, so I thought it was the jacuzzi tub. There's a nice jacuzzi tub in the bathroom. Nobody used it. There's sitting water in the jacuzzi, and so I ran the jacuzzi, cleaned it, put a dishwasher tablet in it,
hmm,
just ran it for like 3 days straight. Not 3 days straight, but for 3 days, I cleaned it basically.
right.
And sure enough, they kept showing up.
It didn't make any difference cleaning the jacuzzi tub. I've never heard of them getting in a jacuzzi tub. That's interesting.
I saw a ton of stories on these things. People were just so frustrated. But yeah, just more of the story, the pouring stuff down, unless it's like really not that bad. You see three of them. Maybe pouring the stuff works. Pouring the stuff down the drains did not work for me at all. And I poured vinegar, I poured all the good stuff, I poured just about everything I could down the drain.
I want to point out, look at this big one, Chandler. Look how giant that fly is right there.
There's some big ones.
That is like a Goliath fly. And it probably nothing kills that. That's like an elephant. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that little thing's probably laying 500 eggs.
So how did you localize from the master bathroom to the kitchen? Obviously the pipes are connected, so they travel.
It was funny. Like the Zevo traps in the kitchen weren't that bad. I was like, oh, they're not. There's not many on them. But the thing about it is when we were in the kitchen, when we were in the master bathroom, it didn't feel like they were all over us. But when we were in the kitchen, it felt like they were everywhere. It didn't look like it in the traps, but we were in the kitchen. I was like, man, there's the most in the kitchen. I was like, I just see them all in the kitchen. I guess they just weren't attracted to the traps over here. But yeah, so finally after pouring everything down, I was like, I called a few plumbers and I'm stubborn. I wasn't getting the answers I wanted from them because not many people have dealt with this. And then I actually called a few exterminators, and all the exterminators are telling me the same exact thing. Everything I've done, basically, do this, pour this, pour this. And I'm like, I've done that. And they're like, yeah, we'll charge you $280 to come out and spray the drains and do all that. And I'm like, trust me, I'm done.
Right.
I've done everything. And then finally, I just got a plumber, and I told a plumber to come over here. Oh, so let's back this up a little bit, actually. I'm on YouTube that night, and I found one guy telling a completely different story. He's like, I watched a video because it was like, he's like, this is a terrible infestation. And he was like, all the stuff you're pouring down the drains, all that doesn't work. You have to find like where they're nesting. And I was like, okay, I like this guy. So like this dude's like crawling under the house, looking at all the pipes in the crawl space. Sure enough, there was a leak in this is the YouTube video I'm watching. There was a leak in the like toilet pipe where they were flushing, just a small little leak, but enough like toilet paper was able to get out and little stuff that could get through the leak. And those forward flies were just eating that leak up. They loved it. And then they would get in through that cracked pipe where the leak was, and they were eating on all the stuff coming out of the leak. And so from then I knew, I was like, okay, I just got to find their home. Like I got to find where the heck they are. And so then I call a plumber. And I'm like, hey, I just need you to scope these pipes for me.
Yeah, this is
All I
extreme.
want you to do. Yeah. I was like, scope these pipes for me. And so he started, it was kind of interesting. I'd never seen how plumbing worked in a house. So we started in the kitchen because that was the worst place. And obviously, you have a picture of the kitchen,
I
of
do.
the
I can
kitchen
share
pipe
it.
when we opened it.
You want the picture or the video?
Let's do the picture first.
Okay. The one, hopefully I get this right. Is that right?
No, not that one. So you can see all that gunk in there, but did you see how the bottom is kind of clean? Like that's where all the stuff was just pouring and sitting and cleaning that part of the pipe, but not cleaning all the other.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. So
That's where the water is, just cleaning. That's basically where the water drains. But then see the top, like how it's just pitch black.
yeah, that cleaning that you did nothing, no offense, but it pretty much cleaned like an inch swath through an 8 inch or 6 inch round
Yeah.
circumference.
Uh-huh.
It did
And so,
nothing.
yeah, it does nothing. And remember, I put foam in here. Like foam was supposed to, but it's so thick that nothing can really eat through that thick of stuff. Does that make sense? Like you
Yeah.
have to get in there and you have to brush that, you have to scrub that. But
Wow.
anyways, they will just live on top of this and eat on that. Like this is their food. They love this stuff.
They can have it.
And
Gross.
so, anyways, this is where we started with the camera. And I think these tenants, they poured just stuff you're not supposed to pour down the sink, not knowing. Because, like, some people, like, with the garbage disposal, they put everything down there.
Yeah, they do. That's why I rip it out in my rentals. I don't like it. Well, and Chandler, I mean, this is a bit of an angle, but like this, the widest part is the bottom. But when you look at the roof of the pipe, it is completely black. If you're not looking at my screen right now, it's
Completely. It's supposed to look
gross,
really like,
thick, and it's real black on the top. And it's, I'm gonna say, fairly clean on the bottom, which what does that mean?
yeah,
Kind of disgusting.
kind of clean. And it smelled horrible.
I can't imagine. But yeah, this is coming out of the side. It's a horizontal pipe and it's just
Mhm.
horrible.
Yeah, so zoom out back to the picture. So this pipe goes sideways into the wall right here, and then it'll kind of go down. Anyways, and then you'll see this pipe going straight up. You
Mhm.
see that pipe going straight
Yes,
up?
right next to the
That's called
knob.
like a vent pipe. So it's supposed to help with, I'm not sure if it's a smell thing or what it is, but anyways, it's a vent pipe that are under sinks. And so that was something that we had to keep in mind too, which that'll come into play later. So anyways, we stick a camera down here and we're not really seeing anything. Obviously we see like extremely dirty pipes. Like we're seeing that all the way through. And then once you get to where like basically the toilet pipes connect, it was like extremely clean. He's like, flush the toilet. So I was going in and flushing the toilets with the camera down there. We weren't really seeing anything. I was like, oh my goodness. I'm so frustrated because because normally with the videos, you could see exactly where they were living. Like it was just plain as day.
So this blackness isn't it? This isn't their home?
That's what they like to eat on, but this, I wasn't finding their home in, they live in like a little, you'll see them all in a little area basically. And then we went to the master bathroom, which is the second worst, because there's three bathrooms in this, it's a big old condo, 3 beds, 3 baths. And so in the back two bathrooms, no flies. So I was like, okay, there's nothing really back here. So we went to the master bathroom and stuck a drain down there. Pretty clean, honestly. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then after like an hour of scoping, I'm like talking to the plumber because the plumber's never dealt with this. And I'm just telling him, hey, here's what we're looking for. And I'm showing him videos. And he just, so zoom out without saying anything. He comes in and cuts this pipe that's going straight up,
Uh-huh.
just cuts it now because he couldn't get into it. It was like glued. That thing was just glued shut, basically, just glued in. And so he just cut it right in half. And sure enough, as soon as he cut that thing in half, we saw exactly where there were, and there was pictures. If you, I think I sent you a video as well. All right, so do you see these little brown things stuck on the walls?
Yes.
So that's like their larva. I could be getting this wrong, but I started looking up. I was like, all right, forward fly larva.
It looks like larva.
And if you can Google forward fly larva, it's probably hard to see in these pictures, but do you see those little points on them? You'll see little
Oh
points.
yeah. It looks like a little piece of grass.
There's like little, they have like little horns on the larva. And I was like, okay, that's it.
Oh my word, just like
Um,
on the back of them. Yeah, yeah, I see
see
it.
how many there are though? There was like 10 in the pipe.
Okay.
So that's one half of the pipe. And then if you go to, so there's another one. And that's where the queens are like born, I believe. I could be wrong. But anyways, that's where like the queens are living. And then if you go to the video of like me trying to get down in the pipe,
Let me see if I can pull up the video. Oh,
but you can see how this pipe is extremely hard to clean because it goes straight up. There's no access to clean
here we go. I got the video up, Chandler.
it.
Ah,
But the
ah.
very bottom right there is where they were. And then you can see all the brown little specks. Like those are all like queen. And then the very bottom of that little gunky was like kind of where they were eating on. And it stays dry. This stays like super, no water gets to this. And so it was just like the perfect home for them.
I'm going to pause it right there. That is disgusting, may I say.
Yeah.
No offense, but this pipe is awful.
Yeah. But
So I'm seeing a lot of black, which is probably food, and then the brown is like the larva and the queens and the
yeah, the brown's like the larva, and then they'll eat the food, and then those, all that brown can lay 500 eggs a piece, and then
ugh.
cycle just kind of keeps on repeating itself. So what we end up doing, I was like, dude, just replace this entire, replace the entire thing. Don't even try to like just put a new cap on it. So we replaced the entire pipe.
Brand new piping. Just the part under the sink. Was there any other piping that you had to replace?
No, just that sewer pipe basically. He said it was like an older. He's like, I'm gonna update this thing with like the newer sewer pipe, and it'll be easier to get into and kind of like if you need to get in there and clean it, it'll be easier to get in and clean it. I couldn't get in there and clean that because it was glued in. It was glued shut.
And this
But it
was
was,
about a 12-inch piece that just shot up from the bottom just to give it extra ventilation, but stuff was getting trapped there. Is that right?
yeah, somehow stuff was getting up in this pipe. I don't know how. I don't know if there was buildup of stuff, but you can see somehow it was getting up in there. And then it was such a good spot for them to live because they like moist areas, but it was like it would stay super moist in there, but super dry as well. Like, so if water's running through there, obviously water can't get up. Water's not going to go up in that pipe. And so they were just hanging out.
The vinegar and bleach wasn't even getting anywhere near the larva because they had found a spot above the pipe basically that was still in the pipe.
So, and that's the funny thing is like when it comes to these flies, you have to like inspect. That's the first thing I would do. I wouldn't even start like, I wouldn't even spend my money on liquids to pour down the sink and all that. The first thing I would have done is just scope the drains. That should have been the first thing. Scope the drains and find exactly where they're living. Because I mean, I pulled out the stove. I think maybe they're living in some food. Made that dropped behind the stove. It was actually pretty clean. I pulled the refrigerator out and pulled the trap out. There's like a little, it's almost like a condenser, AC condenser that
Right.
holds a little bit of water. I pulled it out, nothing. I was pulling every single piece of thing I could pull out to find where their home was. And sure enough, they were in that little pipe that had to be cut in half. You couldn't, you had to cut it in half.
So crazy. So, next question. I have so many questions. So
Yeah.
now you have identified the issue. You completely changed out the plumbing. Like there was no cleaning this. I don't know that I want to try to clean it. You don't brush it. You just got new piping, and that was just under the sink in the kitchen. Is that right?
We just fixed that one pipe issue, and then yeah, that was it.
So even though you cut the pipe, you replaced the pipe, you still had flies floating around that had already hatched. Like, how did you completely know that you finished the infestation? How did you hit that done point?
So the life cycle, they said give it like 2 weeks really to get the excess flies that are already out, if that makes sense. So yeah, just kind of that's when the traps come in play. That's when those work. But if you're not killing where they're living and where they're hatching, you'll never get rid of it. But once that's been killed, you can just put out like you can put out the Zevo traps. What works well is there's like apple cider vinegar in a bowl, and you just put like a piece of saran wrap over it and poke a few holes.
Huh.
They love. I don't know if they love the smell of that vinegar or what, but they'll go to straight to those bowls and just kill themselves.
Weren't you worried that the flies that were still around were going to lay eggs in the new pipes? Like, how did you know they weren't going to do that?
I was worried about that, but what I did, I capped every drain. So I just closed off every single drain, and so they can't get in and out of anything. And you can tape up too if you want to use just clear tape. You can like just clear tape over all your drains, and then obviously if you need to use it, just like uncap it or whatever, use it, and then put a cap back over. So I didn't want them getting back in the drains.
So that keeps the flying ones out. And then what about if something hatches? Does that help you or what? What about the eggs that maybe
If like more hatch, you kind of just let it do its thing. But we got the drains cleaned as well. So they can't, it's going to be very hard for them to, there's nothing for them to eat on. The drains are like crystal white now.
Mm. So when you say clean the drain, you had a plumber take off the drain cap or whatever the filter thing is, and they cleaned it. Every single drain in the house got cleaned, and the pipes in the kitchen got replaced.
Yeah. So we replaced, not like, we replaced some of the pipes because piping's super cheap. But there's this thing you can do. It's called hydrojetting your pipes. So hydrojetting is essentially you're sticking a pressure washer down all the pipes.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's this skinny little hose and it sticks down the pipes and it's like a pressure washer. And it just shoots extremely hard on all the pipes and it'll get, because you saw that thick black layer, it needs something extremely tough to get that off. So um, that's what I would do. First thing I would do is scope the drains, hydrojet the pipes, and save 2 months of your life.
Right. And did
Yeah,
the plumber have the hydrojet? I have never heard of that.
yeah,
So he
yeah.
already had it. So
It's
he did the pipes, he did the hydrojetting, and you were done. Do you remember how much this cost?
about $500.
Wow. But it sounds like it was kind of worth it. Like we couldn't put a tenant inside the way it was. So it was costing the owner much more than $500.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I mean, the owner was extremely grateful because nobody really, and this is another thing that was super helpful is the reason I was trying to do it myself is because what I've seen happen a lot is will send an exterminator in. The exterminator does their thing, and I'm not trying to hate on exterminators or anybody. They'll do their thing. They'll just kind of spray their foam and whatnot, and they'll charge you $200. They spray their foam and they leave. And then they come back 30 days. Hey, is it done? Is it good? No, it's not. It's still here. And they're like, okay, we'll spray it again. And they said they wouldn't charge me if they had to come back and spray again, but that's after 30 days. So now you're
no
200 bucks in.
difference whatsoever. They foamed, it didn't make a difference. So yeah.
Doesn't. So you hadn't fixed the problem. And then I was just so worried about calling somebody, getting somebody in, and then you call a plumber, and then they do something and they don't fix the problem. $400 in, you still haven't fixed the problem. That's what I was so nervous about.
Right.
Just calling all these people in and then not even them fixing the problem. I wanted somebody to tell me, oh, yeah, I've dealt with this. This is what we need to do. And I wasn't getting that I called like 5 different exterminators, 5 different plumbers, and nobody was telling me, hey, we got to find that nest where they're living and fix the problem. Because if you don't fix that problem, you'll just constantly have them. And so it could easily wound up like being a ton of money. But it was lucky enough that I called one person in and got it done that first time so that that money didn't start accumulating.
We manage a lot of properties, and obviously this is a cost to the owner, but it's also a cost to us. We've got tons of staff time on this. You're running over there, I'm running over there. Like there, it is not free, and we want the solution quickly. And sometimes it's kind of what you have to do is just keep bringing in guys until you can solve the issue. It's very frustrating for everyone. There's really no winning until
Yeah.
you find the solution.
But yeah, it could have easily caught up to be a ton of money, but we found it. It was crazy. We were looking everywhere. I was like, stick that camera inside this wall to see. We
Yeah.
pulled out like an outlet and I was like, stick the camera in there and see if you see anything. And there was nothing.
Well,
But
you're talking about a property that's very valuable, somewhere between five and $800,000 property. Okay, very, very nice property. And you're not going to just trash it because of, I'm going to call them fruit flies.
yeah,
So, it's important to just put the money in and find the issue. Would you agree?
yeah, no, I agree. The owner was super helpful. I think the owner was kind of didn't know what to do. And so I was like, she's like, can you just figure it out for me? And I was like, yeah, we'll get it. Yeah, the owner was like, just get it done, basically. And so that kind of gave me a little bit like a leeway. Okay, I'm not too nervous about spending too much, because some owners make me nervous, and I'm like, it's hard to figure out the problem when you're like, don't spend any money, and I'm like, I need to spend a little bit.
Right.
So, because just pulling out the scope can be expensive.
But vacancy is a lot more expensive than anything you've discussed
Yeah,
here.
sure.
And
So,
we see that a lot. And if you can't live in your home because you're going like this every minute, that's also expensive. I mean, these flies are annoying. They are not like, I'm going to leave you alone and I'll be in the corner kind of animals. They're all up in your grill. It's
yeah.
horrible.
If you're eating, they like to they like to kind of be around the food and kind of swat them away. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something you don't want to live with. I'll tell you that.
No, I agree. Well,
So,
thank you so much, Chandler. Thank you for coming on and telling your experience. I didn't get to help on this one, although I was like, oh, these fruit traps work great. That was my useless information. You were like, I've been there. So,
that was fun. That's the thing is everybody was like trying to get their 2 cents, and I was like, I've done that too. I've done the key to it. Scope those drains from the first day, and then just go from there.
yeah, find the source, find the source, find the source. Once you
So
solve the problem, you solve the fly problem, but you have to solve where they live. So, well, thank you. That was really educational. I hope everyone enjoyed the very brutally gross videos that we shared.
if you're not watching, go on and watch. That's what I would say. You need to watch this one and see what we were dealing with.
And who knew that fruit flies have red eyes? That's so interesting.
This was a whole learning process for me. I was on YouTube, on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was wrong. YouTube was wrong. Like, man, they're doing me. Yeah, hopefully this can help somebody out if they're dealing with this issue.
I genuinely hope so.
But anyways, we appreciate y'all coming on today. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. We appreciate it, and we will see y'all in the next episode. Thank you.
Started with $1, stretched it to a mile. Every setback just a setup for style. Stacking paper, vision clearer than glass. Hustle game tight, never moving too fast. Fields of green, seas